Hello from Oslo. How to understand better at work with your colleagues, with your students, with your supervisors. I think what is important is to have an honest and direct discussion, which is often difficult, and to that both sides have a desire to have a positive outcome. The situation is like you can imagine that both students and supervisor at some point don't like each other, don't want to talk. Okay, it's difficult. Another situation where the supervisor understands there is a conflict and want to help, but student not ready for this, hides and run away. Well, you cannot do anything because I think both parts need to be involved and want to solve the issue. Sometimes student want to solve it, but supervisor has ego and doesn't want to participate anymore, expects more from a student. But ideal situation is when there is issues, there are always issues that both sides agree. Agree that dialogue is needed and agree to find solution. I've seen a student in Trondheim who got E for exam. I actually saw two students of them, but I will mention one. He was applying as a PhD student in my group like some years ago. And when I found out that he has E for his master degree, E is the lowest grade, A, B, C, D, E. Lower even F, but F is a fail. So when I ask why you have E, do you understand? He say yes. My project didn't really work well, and then I was hiding from my supervisor. I didn't want to discuss. So he student admit that he didn't want to discuss. Even the program recommends to have a discussion at least once per week, but the student said, I was hiding, I was hiding. I was hoping to solve all the experimental problems myself, but in the end I realized that it's not possible and got E because I had no results and I could not present even the project very well. It's one situation. There also can be situations like imagine that supervisor get a grant and grant says that the project involves mice, and then he hires a postdoc or student and says that okay, I have a project with mice, you agree to work with it? And they say yes, we agree, of course, because we like to do, we understand that it's important for biomedical research. And then after sometimes they say no, we don't want to work with mice, and they have right to say it, but then a project cannot be developed, and then this is the supervisor's difficulty because he or she need to report to the agency the progress of a project, and nobody is doing it. And then the supervisor doesn't have money to hire another person who can substitute it. So it's a difficult situation. Of course, there are solutions. I will not talk about solutions for a particular experiment, but there is a conflict. And why conflict appears? Because people do not follow what they agree. Imagine that you are discussing a job, future job, and your future boss saying, okay, you will working on this project, and I will give you like 2 years contract. Do you agree? And you say yes. And then you're coming, and the supervisor is saying, okay, you will not work on this project. I think another project is more important. Can they do it? Yes. Do they do it? Yes. Is the student obliged to stay in this situation? No. I mean, it's difficult to find a new job very fast, but if you don't agree, just be aware, and you should think whether you want this change or not. And then also, like promise was a 2 years contract, and then they give you 1 year, and then you're like, okay, when you get extension? You say, yeah, maybe 1 week before contract expires. well, if you think it's definitely as a supervisor lie to you. Lie, why? Because they don't know the rules, they're new to the place, or purposely they try to trick you, so you come, you thought there is better condition, and then when you came, they just want to take advantage because they think you cannot go to new place. And then, well, it's a new situation, you have to discuss and you need to decide for yourself, you need it or not. Are you ready to work with this person or not? Or I know another example when a person was coming and future boss says that okay, it will be this salary and it will be like 3 years contract, and then a person came and also get 1 year contract and lower salary. I say okay, why it's 1 year? We discussed 3 years. Ah, yeah, but the rule in our place we can give maximum 1 year because we did not advertise the position, but later we can extend, no problem. Okay, maybe yes, maybe not, but okay, it's one point. Then why salary is lower? Oh, you come from abroad, you come from another country, and in your country salary is so low, so you should be happy to get anything. I heard it several times. I do not think it's fair. I do not think these people will sign it or put it publicly, but it happened. Uh, is it a basis for conflict? Maybe yes. And sometimes students want to work with a particular professor because they like a topic. So they apply to a professor, they make agreements, they say we want to come, we want to work on this project, but they don't realize the professors are so busy. So when they come to the lab, professors say, "Oh, congratulations, you're a new day, you're a new person here. This is the place you're gonna sit, and this is a postdoc or senior student you're gonna work with. And see you next week. Bye bye." And then the student is like, "Okay, I wanted to work with this famous professor, and now I have to work with this junior postdoc. Why it's so? It's not like how we agree." But the situation is a junior postdoc also like, okay, I have my own project, I have my own life. Why I need to work with this new student suddenly? So for both of them, the situation is like, okay, we both wanted to work with this famous professor, or we both didn't want to work with each other, but we are like in a situation that, well, maybe you have to accept because this is how famous professors work, and this is how he or she became famous. Mm, but yeah, I think it's important to have right expectations. So if both people don't expect anything and then they just work and see what happens, it's also a possibility. But if they promise and then they change a promise, one side, it's I think it's very clear basis for a conflict. What is important is that to know the fate of students and postdocs from a lab where you go. So imagine you go to a place and the professor has many years of experience. Then you try to find out what happens to students and postdocs who graduated from the group, who left the group. If you want to be professor, like how many of alumni became professors? If you want to work for a company, how many people from this group went to company? Or did they left science completely and change the topic, like became journalists or school teachers? If this is what you want, yeah, maybe you want to follow, but it's good to know your options. And if it's a new group, options you don't know because there is no history. And it's a little bit risk, but it's if you feel good about the place and the person, you have a chance to succeed. But if it's a well-established group which exists for many years, decades, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, try to see what happens to the people, like how many of them. 1 out of 10 became successful, 5 out of 10, 10 out of 10, and where they work and what happened to them. So when I was going to work for my PhD. I had no idea about this question. I didn't ask what happens to former students and postdocs, so I just accept anything because I had no idea how things work. When I went for my first postdoc, I got a long list of former students and postdocs, and many of them were like professors and directors of companies, so I realized the place is good. My second postdoc, the PI was a junior at the time, so it was no history, it was just a guess. And then at later stages, well, it was up to me because I already too senior, and it's my turn to educate the new generation. So I think students are smart, otherwise they will not get to PhD, and they will not stay doing PhD. And the supervisors are definitely smart. The thing is, the students always complain about supervisors, and supervisors between themselves always complain about students. But both of them are smart, and the difficulty is that they do not often talk honestly and direct to solve all potential issues. So if I think if students and supervisors can honestly, directly, without emotions, discuss the challenges, which not very often, but I think I hope it will be more and more open, more and more often. In this situation, the work environment will be better. Okay, bye bye.